Welcome to Rom Wills Money Matters. Paying yourself from your business. And this is in response to a question by one of my supporters, Brother Reginald. He had talked about making money from his LLC for the first time, which incidentally, just making that first dollar off of your business it's an undescribable feeling. You had this dream about a business, then you make your first dollar. Whew, wow. Seriously, it's an undescribable feeling. Indeed, I would get that mini feeling when I would do my vending and I make that first sale of the day. It's incredible. It's incredible. But the subject here is paying yourself from your business, particularly if it's an LLC. Now, if it's maybe a sole proprietorship or something like that, people might have a tendency to mix their earnings from their business with any other income that they have. I would say this. Even if it's a sole proprietorship, but especially if it's an LLC, you pretty much need to have something. If you can afford it, you pretty much need to have something lined up. Because if you think about it with a business, however your business form, we'll say the most common that people form is maybe an LLC. All right, so you have that LLC. Thing is, you got to pay so many other things. Now, say hypothetically, you make, I don't know, you just throw out anything, any amount of money. Well, you still got to pay taxes. In most places, you got to pay state taxes. You got to have some places, depending on what you're selling, how much you make off the business directly and all of that. It's a lot of stuff. It depends on your state, but in general, just think taxes. Even if you got a sole proprietorship, you got to pay taxes. Even if it's mixed with your money, you got to pay taxes on it. If you report it, you're going to pay taxes on it. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. So, all right. So say monthly you make, I don't even want to give a number. I don't want to get that type of number. I'll just say what you got to spend because I had to get out a calculator. Y'all making me work harder than I want to work. But anyway, so, okay, you got to take out money for taxes. If you have a business location or something, you typically got to pay rent. If you're working from home, you're still going to need supplies or something. Even if you're providing a service, you're going to need supplies. All right, so you're making some money. All right, you got the money for taxes. You got the money for supplies. You might have to make something. You probably have to pay for the business license, depending on the jurisdiction. Well, the business license ain't that bad. Usually you pay one time and don't have to pay again at a minimum a year later. But, there's still like so many little things that you need to pay for that can be written off on your taxes. So you got to think supplies or services, depending on what you're doing, maybe gas money, all of that. All right. So you got all of this stuff. You should still have an emergency fund as best as possible. For those times that you never know something might come up. Okay, and those are I'm just giving some basic things. Like I said, it depends on the business, how you running it, but you got all this other stuff to pay. Now you're saying, okay, what do you pay yourself? And this is something I learned from a couple of dudes I knew who ran a bookstore. I remember what they had said. They had said to me, they said no matter what, they only paid themselves 8% of the income, no matter what. Now, as they increased their income, that 8% went up, but they kept it at 8% and put everything else into the business. Indeed, you might have to invest in the business in such a way. Like you might have to, you might decide to move to a bigger space, better supplies. You might decide to take some educational courses that can help you in your business. So you got 92%. Basically, you want to put that money back into the business, period. But you still want to pay yourself. Focus on the 8% number or whatever number you want. You might just say, you know what, Rom, I don't want 8%. I want 20%. Okay. As long as it's not 75% or something, because that's the important thing. And see, when you keep it at that, I'd say keep it at a percentage. That way, you never dip it into the money you can use otherwise. And if even if you make more money, maybe depending on the nature of the business, set up a bonus or something, especially if you have employees. Oh, which is another thing too. You still got, if you expand your business, you got to pay employees. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't think about that right away. I don't have any employees right now. Believe it or not, I can actually use some, but not right now. I'll just do it myself right now. But if you want to expand your business, you got to pay them. So you got to look at that. Now, I know some people, they still say, well, Rom, I'm going to pay myself all of this. Forget everybody else. Yeah, okay. Here's the problem. What happens when things dip? What happens when sales dip or there's a slowdown? See, the thing with the business, you got to treat it like an entity. You got to make sure it stands no matter what, because ultimately it's paying you. Now, if you start with 8%, yeah, you might say, okay, 8%. I'm getting, let's just start a number. 8% is $800 a month for you. Well, first of all, starting out a business, you typically had another job anyway. So, you could stand it, and maybe you pay yourself that 8% and then, put that money away. Or indeed, some people, when they starting out, they don't pay themselves anything. There's people who've been in business, they'll be in business for a few years before they start paying themselves. And, that depends on what else they have going on in their lives. They might have another job, because most people who start a business always have a steady job. So they don't really need that money right away. Indeed, Amazon, believe it or not, Jeff Bezos, he didn't make any money at first. He didn't make any money at first, personal. At least I think that was the case. That was like a couple decades ago they were talking about that. I got to check that. But you get a lot of people who do that. Now, if you want to pay yourself, keep it low. But keep it at a percentage and stick with it. And then once you establish that percentage, under no circumstances cheat. Like, you got a little bit extra money and say, okay, I'm going to give myself this extra money. Stay disciplined with it. But definitely, and make sure everything is taken care of. Make sure you have money for everything. Make sure you have extra funds in case something comes up. And be very diligent about it. If you're capable of doing your own books, great. If you have to find somebody who might volunteer to do the books, well, it is what it is. However you do it. Say, I can keep my own books. I ain't worried about that. But some other people, you might have to. But remember, just a percentage. And indeed, if you can get away with not paying yourself anything at first, there's nothing wrong with that. But then when you start paying yourself, still a percentage. Or if you at a point where you can afford, like you've been in business for a few years, you get a steady flow despite any ups and downs, then you could say, okay, let me pay myself this salary, and just keep it steady. Whatever you do, stay consistent. So in general, you don't want to pay yourself $800 one month and then $2,000 the next month. Only way you could really get away with something like that is if you have maybe a sole proprietorship with extremely low overhead. Like you working from home, like you would have to have a lot of circumstances to be undisciplined. But when you have an LLC, you got reporting requirements and things of that nature, you need to stay disciplined. So just start off at a percentage, whatever. Just look at, see what you got to do. So anyway, in order to even get to that point, let's go make that money.